So we are back here with Gil Meadowcroft again today. So Gil, why is property sold off the plan?
Well, Jess, quite obviously the reasons are commercial. Property development and building, house construction is a commercial enterprise, and it's also a very risky commercial enterprise. It requires a lot of capital commitment in the form of buying land, building materials, labour, numerous consultancies that developers use to test a product. So getting it wrong can be a very costly mistake. Not all developers do sell off the plan. Some developers like to spec or build their project or their homes before they sell them, and they do this at some risk in the belief that the prices in the future are going to be greater than they are now. So in other words, they believe if they hold off and sell the property when it's finished, that it'll fetch a higher price. Conversely, locking in buyers while a project is still under construction or it's still in the design phase allows builders and developers to mitigate some risk, because they're not committing the capital without knowing that they haven't got an end buyer, be it a first home buyer, which is the theme of our discussion, or an investor or any other buyer for that matter. Another reason property is sold off the plan is to fast track the seller's return on investment, so that the completion of the property coincides with the settlement of the property. Obviously, if a property is built and then a developer or builder goes about selling it or engaging an agent, there's a longer lead time before they achieve settlement. However, if a property is sold off the plan with a watertight contract, as soon as the property is finished, it then settles. So the seller has a return on equity a lot quicker than they ordinarily would have. So the decision, though, to sell off the plan is not always the developer's or the builder's choice. It's because of the cost involved in property development. It is typical for banks to actually require developers to sell off the plan. So the decision to sell off the plan is ordinarily a bank decision. And this means that a project may not commence construction until a certain number of pre-sales are achieved to allow construction to start. This is particularly important for a first home buyer, because if you are buying a project that is subject to a number of pre-sale targets and that target hasn't been achieved yet, then you don't know exactly when the project is going to be finished. So buying off the plan to meet a pre-sale target can mean a longer lead time. Banks also, before they lend money for construction finance, we're typically talking about large amounts of money for apartment towers or larger projects, will require pre-sales, at least probably 50% of the project as a minimum, and it will require watertight contracts. This is also important for a buyer, because off-the-plan contracts are watertight and are legally binding. So they're the seller's main motivations for selling off the plan: to fast-track their investment, to test the market to make sure that they've got the product right before they actually build, or because their financier or their bank require those pre-sales. Next week we'll talk a little bit more about what the implications are of the off-the-plan purchase for the buyer, and what's in it for the buyer, and why the buyer might desire to purchase off the plan as well as the seller.